All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm assuming you can all hear me. We are ready to start. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for being here and for doing invigilation work. It is always can be a challenge, and I appreciate that, but it's necessary, and the world's a better place in our community for all of you. Um, this is our first forum of this type. See how work goes. Our goal for this and upcoming forums is to provide greater consistency in invigilation and help people prepare for doing it as correctly as possible and to answer questions. We're not going to do questions and answers during this forum. However, any questions that come out of this or that you have, I would like you to email me, and then we can use them for further forums, or we can just address them on the spot. So if you don't understand, we can have a phone call or whatever we need. I didn't want to do a question and answer deal because of how long it might make this run. I'd like to keep it pretty short to make it not too intrusive on our lives, 30 minutes or so, a couple of presentations. Diana McDonald's going to start, and she's doing the process of invigilation, preparation protocol is her topic. So I will turn it over to Diana and let her do that section. Then we move to Ava after that. Diana, you're up.
All right. Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing good. Um, I just wanted to shed some light on just clarifying what the process is. I've come across quite a few invigilators that I've worked with at various competitions that seem to be a little bit confused about what the overall procedure and protocol is. So I'm just going to run it down best I can. The first and foremost is that you really need to know ahead of time when you're invigilating that if you're not in these books every single day, go and refamiliarize yourself with the step list of whatever style it is and try as best you can to be as up on it as possible. We've got videos, we've got, the step list. And the reason I say this is because it's a completely impossible task in the first place if you're the only invigilator. But it's even more impossible if you're having to read while trying to invigilate. And it's not to say that, we never have to pick up the book just to verify, but if you've got to check literally everything you see, then you probably should have done a little bit of you know, reminding work on your own ahead of time, uh, kind of forever in school in this way. Um, then once you're there, the guidelines that are listed, if we're speaking specifically about smooth, but all of the styles have guidelines and restrictions to familiarize yourself with those, because actually I find more often than not it's people that don't actually know about the other restrictions besides the actual physical figures that they're doing. I do think people have gotten a lot better with the figures that they use, but they often don't know the restrictions. So they might be doing a full silver routine, but not doing the appropriate number of closed bars or not starting with closed bars, things like that, so you want to make sure that you familiarize yourself with those restrictions so that you do kind of know those by heart as best as you can and review them before your shift. That way your brain is up and running because they certainly make you move around. They do a lot of stuff and they do it very quickly. And if you are the unfortunate soul that is the only invigilator at one time, you also need to be able to write this stuff down pretty swiftly and make sure that it's legible. If you need to write it on scratch paper first, you can, but obviously, if any of you that have been sitting up there know how little time you actually have. But we also have to remember that Miss Ava actually has to be able to read those 2 weeks later and be able to understand what had gone on because she creates the database for us to be able to work off of so that we know that if somebody has been numerous times before, infracted, and she'll get into this later, for the same things over and over again, that you'll be able to look at that database and see. But that is only if she can read your handwriting. And it's imperative that you really have your name down there that's legible, and the person's name and the level. Everything needs to be filled in. Nothing can be left blank, because even though I know it seems like a lot to do and then you've got to go and talk to them, yes, we are super people for being able to do that. But you do really need to fill in all the details. I've come to people before, and they've said to me, oh, I was never told I couldn't do that in rumba. I was only told I couldn't do that in cha-cha. These general kinds of things. Now, if the sheet comes back to Ava and it's not circled any dance, she's gonna make a guess. Maybe she'll guess all dances and say all dances, which would be great. But if it's not on the sheet, it's not really clear. Um, Second point is that you do need to, even if you're leaving, it means you're leaving the post unattended. Unfortunately, you need to go and warn people, because otherwise we're letting them dance all day long one way, and then the next invigilator is going to come in and have, which I just did have, a stack of sheets that were written down that no one went and served. And this was somebody else seeing all of these infractions. So you want to try to make sure that you go see these people as quickly as possible, separate them from their student, which sometimes is a challenge, because they like to hold on to the student's hand and they want to talk to you, but you do need to separate yourself from them, so that you can go and have a conversation. And it is also important to remember, guys, that sometimes if somebody's uncontested or has a proficiency, that they need to be looked at also, because that might not be all they're doing that day. Obviously, if the floor is super hectic, your first priority will be with the things that are currently contested. But if you see somebody dancing a closed bronze proficiency and she's doing a forward walkover in her waltz, then it should definitely be told, because at some point they're going to dance a group competition. Maybe not even that day, but it is our job that we go and let them know that they shouldn't be doing that. And even in an uncontested category, and in proficiency, we're supposed to be looking at the whole floor if we can. The other thing that usually is complicated, and the protocol about this is, it's got to be at our discretion. If you have a couple that is very out of category, and like there's no way that they're possibly even going to entertain being able to fix all of their routines in that moment, the path of least resistance is best. You can go and tell them all of the things that are out of category for the level that they're dancing in, if you can even jot them all down. But you can always make a suggestion to have the student be either uncontested, have the entries changed to a proficiency, or suggest that they move into a level where they're not going to be out of category, because then it alleviates the stress of them having to try to figure out what to do in the moment. For some of them, when they still want to say, no, no, we want to be contested and we're not going to change that, well, that's not usually a great idea. Because if we get one person out there that's doing gold in a closed bronze category and they are allowed to win the competition, all of you that have pro-am students know what that will cause, because Miss Mary May is going to bring a video back and say, this person did all of this stuff and I want to do all that stuff too. And it does create a problem. And while that person, that teacher might be really not happy with you at the minute, you can make some quick suggestions to help them out to be in category. And if there's any way to salvage it so that they can still dance in their right category, if they're willing to do the work, that's great. But you do have to let them know that we can't really let them continue to dance out of category in that level, that we have to make other arrangements. So I hope that that's clear for everybody. And it doesn't include having to be mean to people, although sometimes They make you want to be maybe mean, but you just find a direct enough way to have the conversation and be as clear as you can. Be as clear as you can about what the infraction is. If it includes not only being out of the level because the step is out of the level, but if it also includes how many other things that they're doing that are out of category that are violating the restrictions. I'm constantly offering to them that they should be looking at the videos that we offer for free on the NDCA website, as well as the step lists, and to note that they're looking at a particular level, because in some cases, they'll be happier to try to go fix it themselves. Sometimes they just fix it with new mistakes. That's why I try to tell them that they should refer to the videos, because basically you can tell them if you see it on the video, it's legal, because it is. If they don't see it on the video, then don't do it. That it's pretty simple in that way. But it's all in how you approach it. And one of the biggest things we're trying to get across today, and again, I'm sure Ava will talk about it too, is making sure that the whole invigilation form, I know that Richard sent it out in the email, really does get filled in. Even if you have to spend time a little bit after to make sure that all of the information is there, that information that's on these sheets is also your communication with the next invigilator that's coming on. And it's big time your communication with Ava to be able to keep the database as up to date and current as possible. All right. Richard, is there anything else you want me to add to this, or are we good?
That's good for this now.
Okay.
And then you can do your other topic after Ava.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
guys.
So Ava is going to talk about the infractions database, how to find it, how to read it, and also filling out the form for accuracy. It's her two topics. She's up next. You may.
Hello, everybody. I hope you all can hear me. So we do have an infractions database. It is a Google document on my Google Drive. To get access to it, you just need to email me, which is pretty simple. It's avakaye@gmail.com, and ask for access to it. I will share it with anybody who is a currently registered invigilator. If you are not registered as an invigilator with the NDCA and you ask for it, I will ignore your email. So please make sure that you are actually registered with the NDCA as an invigilator. I'm going to attempt to share my screen so y'all can see what it is. I have to send a request. So Richard, if you will let me share my screen, I will then be able to show people what the database looks like.
I said allow. Do I have to do anything else?
Great. No, I just need to say, okay, share. So hopefully now what you're looking at on your screen is the infraction database. It says docs.google.com, spreadsheets, and a bunch of nonsense, but it very clearly says infractions database on it. Right now, everything that has been put in for 2023 and 2024 is sorted by name. So right here where it says professional or studio, if you put in if you get into this, you can obviously search pretty quickly. And what it's got across, the competition, when it was held, who it was talked to, the level, the style level, final or semifinal, what dance it was, what the violations type was, which 90% of the time I will take from your sheet, and occasionally I will disagree with you. So if you put down that somebody did open something wildly open and you said it's category, I'm going to change it to choreography, because that's what open is, choreography. A quick description of what was done, not what you suggested they fix, not anything else about it except this person, the infraction was you can't pass your feet in bronze, or they did a Turkish towel passing in front. I'm trying to put down what was actually done that was a violation. Who who was the invigilator, was it warned or penalized, and was the form signed? We are now starting to record stuff that was not signed. So you can see from this that at Grand National, this person in American Cha-Cha did a half moon in bronze, which was out of category, but the invigilator didn't get a chance to get it signed off. So we know that it was seen. We don't know that it was communicated to the person who we're looking at in this case. So keep that in mind, check everything. If there's anything else that needed to be noted, like a bunch of people will say, this person, I talked to them, but they refused to sign the sheet, I'm noting it. So if somebody simply refuses to sign, just make me a note on it. I talked to them, they refused to sign. All I need to see is refused to sign, and I'll put it in the database. So having said that, that means that there's an awful lot that is left for me to interpret from time to time. And that's why, and hopefully you can now see, if anybody recognizes their own handwriting in this, it's all just examples. This person very clearly did not tell me whether it was American or international or bronze, silver, or gold, but they did actually write down here that it was closed bronze. So I was able to record this. And then they said, this is what happened in the cha-cha. This is what happened in the samba. Big hint to me, paso and jive. So at least from what's on the form, I can tell that it was international and that it was closed bronze. Not my favorite way of getting it, but at least I got the information. This I had to go back in and figure out. Now, this is a database I have because I work Emerald. So I could go back and find Heat 617 and realize that it was American bronze. This is my handwriting here where it says Trevor Guthrie, because that was a process of elimination once I got to the Heat. I know that you guys are moving fast. I've done the job. I understand how difficult it is, but I don't have access to every database. I have access to about 24. Those are the ones that I actually work. So if you don't tell me this information and it just says Tango and Foxtrot, I have no idea. Then I have to start looking and trying to parse from the violations, whether it's American or international. And sometimes from the violations, I can tell maybe what level it is, but I don't want to put something down in the database that says bronze when they were doing silver, because then for you guys out in the field, it's not accurate. And it means the whole database is less reliable. You can't say to somebody, well, you were told this. And even this, you can see is I can just barely figure out what that is. So scrap paper is really good. When you're going out to talk to somebody, you don't necessarily need to put American and bronze, but before you leave your shift, if you could make sure that those are all filled out, like go back through your forms and see whether or not you missed one. Believe it or not, this is a form that I got. Like, okay, now that's easy. There's nothing written down there. I can certainly just throw that away. But that was, I have no idea. This was obviously the same person. So I don't know what event this is from. I have a huge, I mean, this is 2024 is about 18 inches deep of forms. I don't know who it was. Thank you. I do know that it was American Bronze Cha-Cha. I know it was a triple turn from something breaks. So these are the examples of please don't do this. This was an interesting one. This was a professional basics, which I personally believe should be invigilated. So I don't have a problem with that. But I don't know who Eugene was. And again, I don't have access to the database, so I don't know which of many Eugenes danced that event. And I would love to be able to put all this in the database. So, and obviously, I don't even have an invigilator to go back to and say, who are you talking about? I would love to be able to have everybody's emails and be able to write to you and say, hey, I got this form and I can't figure out what you're saying. Can you help me with it? And maybe you can, and maybe you can't. And this one is on here because does anybody know who this is that got invigilated? So if I can't read this, as Diana said, it doesn't get put in here. And just so you know, I was asked to actually pull a form for somebody who said to Diana recently, I was never invigilated for that. And I was able to come home, go to the exact comp in my files, pull out the original form and email it and say, yeah, she was, and she signed it. So I cannot stress enough how much I need as much information as you can give me and as legibly as you can. And if you're going fast, just go back over. And if it's something that you can't read, then assume I can't read it. This one is fabulous. It even has a note on it. Won't be able to change till after the comp. I love that. That's a note from one invigilator to the next invigilator. It's not in the database. What's in the database is that a category? He did a rolling in and out. But everything on this is clear. So I will cease to share if I can figure that out. Hold on a sec. Oh. Did I turn the share off? I hope. No?
No, not yet. Maybe I can do it.
Apparently I can turn it on, but I can't turn it off. I'm sorry.
No, I can't either.
You know what I can do? I can close that window entirely.
That worked.
There. That's what I needed to do. If anybody has any questions or suggestions, please email them. Email them to me or directly to Richard, and we will try and deal with it. We've tried to make the form as simple as possible while being complete. So, like I said, write down what you need to do and then go back and fill in the rest of it. Last note, if you're working a kids' day, please, instead of putting down the names of the dancers, put down the name of the studio, because that's how we record kids' infractions, is by the studio. So and I'm not picking on them, if the kids come from Brilliant Dance Sport, put down Brilliant. And that's how you'll find it in the database, if at all possible. And I am done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ava. That was very good. Very nice. The last presentation is back to Diana because Lori was going to do this, then she ran into flight delays and was unable to attend the meeting. So Diana's going to pinch hit and do the common infractions section for bronze smooth, as we're focusing just on the bronze smooth today, no other style for this particular meeting. Next time, I think we'll go to probably bronze rhythm and so forth. So, and be sure and send in requests if you have specific questions about things you would like to be as topics. Send them to me and we can add them or at least consider them as the case may be. Okay, so I'm going to pitch the ball back to you, Diana. You're up.
Yep, for sure. So actually one other thing that Ava brought up that then reminded me of something that I should have said. If you are invigilating on Kids Day, it is a little bit more chaotic than I mean, running around to find pro-am people are difficult. But on Kids Day, for those of you who haven't worked one yet and aren't sure how that goes, generally we call up a representative from the studio. We have the MC actually call the studios up because you shouldn't really be dealing directly with the children anyway. Their teachers or their parents should. A lot of the times, if they're there without a coach, then you do end up, offering information to the kids directly, maybe with the parents there. But it's really better for the teacher to deal with it because then they're also learning from this situation. So that's just a heads up on how to deal with it because you will never be able to find in the sea of little rugrats running around in between the dances what child you need. So that's the process. You go to the MC with a list of numbers and ask for representatives from the studios of the kids that have those numbers to see the invigilator. That's the process for that. Okay, so on our little list of things to do for the common infractions, again, this comes to a little bit of the restrictions that we were discussing earlier. That anytime in bronze that you're doing something that ends with open feet, like a spin turn or anything like that, that ends up with the open feet in the pattern, has to be followed by a closed finish. This is a rule that a lot of people don't realize is actually existing. However, it does say it right in the step list when you look. It does have it in brackets on the side, must be followed by a closed finish. So you can go through, and it's maybe a smart idea to familiarize yourself with the figures that, the elements, I should say, that are on that bronze list that do finish with the feet open, and that to make sure that they're always following through with that. So they can't do like, not you'd want to, but doing a spin turn into a progressive chasse of some kind in the waltz. That would be two open-footed figures back to back, and so that wouldn't be allowed. So it's just stuff like that to keep in mind because it starts to give them a little bit of a movement advantage in that way. Yeah. And if anybody asks why to these things, I mean, a lot of it is there for the teacher to have better boundaries for what they're teaching their students. We don't really have to share that, but you do get asked why. I all the time get asked why. And we don't really have to tell them why. This is the list. But if you did want to share, it's to keep the levels a little bit neater and better for their training. And more money going through everyone's pockets for that matter, but that's besides the point. Now, if we look at the number of closed bars in a routine, no, it's not possible to look at 12 couples on the floor and see if they've all done 12 bars of closed because you can't look at everyone at the same time. However, it's pretty easy to see if somebody leaves hold too early at the beginning. And once you start feeling, you'll get a sense for it. Somebody's flying around more than usual. Well, maybe you let a couple like watch the next dance and watch them a little bit more closely because this is usually the case. If they're not really aware of that restriction, most of the time they will do it in other dances because they don't know it exists. If you're not sure, you can watch a couple dances before you make the comment and say, I wasn't really sure about your waltz, but your tango definitely did not have the closed bars. Sometimes I tell when I'm teaching people to use as a guideline to try to be in closed position on every wall somewhat, so that they're being able to be seen in closed position more sporadically around the room, because sometimes they'll also try to say, oh, well, I've got 11 closed bars at the end of my routine, but our restrictions clearly state that those 12 bars that we need have to be somewhere in the first minute. The goal, of course, with that is for people to be able to learn how to flow in and out of the dance positions. That's part of the major skill set in smooth. And so we're not asking for them to do 12 closed bars in a row because they also usually will balk that it's very restricted and it's not creative, but actually that's not what we're asking at all. We're asking for 4, and then the others can be distributed throughout and as clever of a way as they can figure out how to do that in bronze. But we need to make sure that they're able to know that that rule is in place. That's a real common one. For phrasing, sometimes people will sneak out on the 4th bar so they can go kablam on the 5th bar. So they don't like that, but that's what it is. One of the other real common mistakes is the tango open left turn. A lot of people think that that includes the open finish with the legs being apart at the end. It does not include the open finish at the end. It only includes the first 3 weight transfers as being the open left turn, and then the back end of it has to finish with the feet closed. So that is a very, very common thing that people don't understand because they usually follow it with a swivel, which is not, a step that's out of category, but it's the open left turn being with an open finish that is out of category, because also it would be 2 bars with open feet. So that's that again. Fall away grapevines are another huge one that kind of tends to happen everywhere. So we need to make sure that they understand that the man and lady need to be doing the natural opposite. So if the leader is going forward, the lady needs to be going backwards and vice versa. So they shouldn't be going through promenade and fall away, because that method of doing a grapevine is silver. And that's another real common infraction. The crossbody lead that we have in the Viennese waltz that ends on left side position. This is another one that as of late we had drawn attention to from others, that people were doing this in other dances besides the Viennese waltz. That amalgamation is only suitable for Viennese waltz. It is not suited in the other dances. Yes, the other dances do contain a crossbody lead, the waltz and the foxtrot do, but they have their own specific little amalgamation that we've listed as being allowed on the NDCA step list. And that is the only area and way that they can be danced. Okay, so just to reiterate, we're not getting to left side position after a crossbody lead in any other dance other than Viennese waltz. And so that was the other one that was on the list. Richard, did I leave anything out of those?
I don't
Okay,
think so. Nothing I have. Let me just double check with my written notes. No, those were the ones we wanted to cover mostly today.
yeah.
Are big deals and come up often would come up regularly with questions from people. So that then concludes our first meeting. This is recorded. If somebody wants to go back and look at it, if you have someone else who asks, "Oh, is it recorded?" I'm going to put it up on my Google Drive so it would be easy to access for people. So if somebody wants to see a recording of the meeting, I will put that up there. Just have them contact me and I'll give them a link and they can pop in and have a look at it. Or I might post the link somewhere, but I'm not quite sure where I would put it just yet. So I want to thank you all for coming. If you have questions, like I said, email me, call me for that matter, and be glad to get somebody in touch with you who can answer your questions and move from there. And also remember, if you have things that come up that you want dealt with in these meetings, we will try to do another one. I'm trying to schedule them once a month if I can, and get people involved, and then we'll have some recordings to go back to once we get through some of the various levels and styles. So again, thank you very much. Everybody have a really great evening, and thank you for all your hard work, and especially thank you to Diana and Ava as our presenters. They did a great job, and I appreciate you guys a lot. So thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.